We're going to show you the best way to remove a broken bolt without drilling it. This works in almost every situation, and it's particularly important to know how to do this because most of the time you can't fit a drill or drill bit in the area you're working. It works on all metal types. This happens to be a steel bolt broken off in a cast iron knuckle. So we're going to extract this bolt out of here quickly and easily using a MIG welder. Let's get started. Step one is to use a grinder such as this to clean the surface of the end of the bolt really good so you can get a good weld on it. Just knock it to a flat surface and get it nice and shiny so the weld will have good penetration and a good grab on that bolt. Okay, we have the end of that bolt nice and clean. Nice clean bare metal. Let's get the welder fired up. Now you want to weld directly in the center. You want the welder turned up as hot as possible, and you want to start building up your tack welds. Get into the center, really hot, a lot of penetration, build it up nice and red, and then let off the welder. As soon as the redness starts to cool from that weld, start welding again and start building up those tacks with heavy heat and penetration until you have a nub sticking out about a good 1/4 of an inch. You don't have to worry too much about the weld touching this cast iron because the weld won't stick to the cast iron very well. So even if it appears that it is stuck to the cast, as soon as you start putting some torsional force on this bolt, it'll break loose of that cast really easily. Same thing as if this was a bolt going into an aluminum cylinder head or anything. Don't worry about the weld touching the aluminum. It will not stick to it and you can still spin the bolt right out. But at the same time, don't intentionally get weld on these surfaces. But if it does bridge over a little bit, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to mess you up. So get the welder right in the center, real hot, real fast, and get out of it. As soon as the redness starts to cool, get back into it and repeat that process until you have a nice bit of weld sticking out. Okay, so this does two things. One, now we actually have something to grab onto and remove that bolt. We can use a pair of vice grips. The second thing it does is welding to that bolt gets that bolt hot, so that bolt just expanded. So we're going to let it cool off for about a minute to let that bolt cool down. The fact that that bolt expanded squeezed out on its grip on the inside of that hole and broke loose any rust just from the fracturing of the squeezing outward pressure. When it cools, it will shrink smaller than before it started and will take away a lot of the grip on those threads, and we should easily be able to screw that bolt out of there. So we'll let it cool down for about a minute, get some vice grips on there, and try to spin it out. It's really important that that first weld tack you put on there gets a good grab, because all the other ones aren't going to be any stronger than the first one's attachment to the bolt. So if it breaks off, just re-weld it and start again. So start putting a little pressure. It's already starting to spin. Okay. It feels like the bolt is actually turning in the threads and not the weld trying to twist off. All right, it's starting to come out. I feel like I'm to the point where I could probably use regular pliers soon, so these locking pliers. Alright, it's coming out. So the combination of that weld getting the bolt hot got the bolt to swell inside the hole and crack loose any rust that was creeping down in those threads. And anytime you get metal hot and metal cools off, metal shrinks. So it swelled up, cracked the rust loose, and then it shrunk, taking away the friction between the threads. And then the weld itself gives us something to actually grab onto. So, see if that's cold enough to take out. And there we go. Bolt is out. So there you have it. The bolt. Threads are still good. The weld sticking out. So this situation works really good on all types of materials. If it's stuck in aluminum, if it's stuck in cast, if it's a bolt stuck into a piece of steel, you got to be careful in that situation that the weld doesn't stick to the steel. But this is a really good trick. I've used it in some incredibly tight situations. It works wonders on broken exhaust studs and cylinder heads. When you can't get anything in there, but you can just barely get the head of the welder in there, start building that weld up so it sticks out past the surface of the head, giving you something to attach to. Works every time. I have never had this fail me. Worst case scenario, it takes a couple tries to get the weld to stick to the bolt good enough to get the bolt out. A couple times, you know, the weld might snap off and the bolt doesn't come out yet. Get back in there, weld it again, let it cool, go back at it. By the second or third time, you'll get it out. So I hope this helps you. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.